How you doing? You all right?
I'm all right, mate. Finally got to talk to you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, playing around with Skype a little bit there. I thought, okay, I'll try you.
So we might finally manage to talk. I think I stood you up first, and then you stood me up, and it was we
I know
finally.
it's terrible dating etiquette, isn't it?
Oh, it's fine. I swore I wouldn't talk to you again, but I've let it go. I let it go. How you doing then?
All right,
How's it?
on this one occasion.
So you said you've been busy then. So what's kind of taking your time at the moment with your life, with your career? What's kind of taking stock at the moment?
It's everything working on beneath at the minute. It's been really busy
Yeah,
getting everything together for it. And we've got 10 weeks left before we're due to start shooting. So it's that really busy time now of getting everyone else in place,
yeah.
getting all the small bits sorted, and before we get rolling.
I'll talk to you about Beneath in a wee while because it looks a really kind of interesting project, or a really exciting project from the outside. And you're probably going through all the
Yeah,
nightmare stuff with the plans and everything at the moment, and probably that kind of fear and the terror and everything else. I'll go with some of the kind of just the standard questions first. So how the hell did you get into directing then? Where did this kind of love affair start? Because I can see all the memorabilia behind you. You've got some cool stuff. Oh, Terminator as well behind you as well. So I take it you're a kind of a geek like me then, and kind of
yeah. I think you've got to be really. It's for me, being a film fan is what makes me a better filmmaker. I
yeah,
think being able to embrace and enjoy movies is what it's all about. So for me, being able to tell stories that other people are going to hopefully enjoy
yeah,
is the biggest part of it for me. It's one of the biggest things to enjoy.
yeah.
With my job.
So how did you get into the filmmaking? And is it something you kind of that's what you wanted to do, or have you kind of stumbled
Yeah,
into it?
well, what I first of all, like, when I was at school, I wanted to work in radio. That was all I wanted to do, and did that for a few years. Did it pretty successfully all over the UK. I was really pleased with that. It was what I
Yeah,
wanted to do. But then I'd done it. I'd done what I wanted to do at that point, and it was while working in radio that I got an opportunity to work in TV. And so it was television production. So I worked not as a personality or presenter like it
yeah,
was in radio.
yeah,
So it was the other side, and I thought that seemed really interesting. So I thought, okay, I'll give that a go. Ended up preferring that to the TV work, so completely, switched sides on that essentially. And the same kind of thing kind of happened with film. I was really happy in television production, and then got the opportunity to work in film. First of all, as a producer on Nick Love's Outlaw, and as soon as I got involved in that, I just kind of knew that was
yeah,
where I wanted to be.
yeah,
So then made the switch from TV into film, and then I spent 10 years as a producer, produced nearly 30 projects in film, and then it was a few years ago when I did a Superman film. It was the world's first independent Superman film made in association with Warner Brothers
yeah.
themselves. And so that was interesting. It was a challenging experience. And but I
Was that
directed that.
Superman Requiem that you're talking about?
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yep.
I saw that a few weeks
Um,
ago. So
yeah. If you've seen it, you'll see it's disjointed in a lot of places because we had to keep the budget ridiculously low.
yeah, but it's got a
Whilst
heart there. It's got a And I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you. I mean, yeah, it's ultra low budget. Yeah, there. You would probably look at it yourself and go, there's a whole heap of things maybe that you would change or whatever. But it's still got a. It's still you can tell it's made by fans and it's the Superman lore at heart that you've got, and it was authentic. And hats off to you for that because I there were parts of that I really enjoyed. So
Cool. I mean, I appreciate you saying that. It's one of them projects that's one of the more difficult of my own to watch back because there's
really,
there's some on every project there's bits that you would change.
sure,
On that one, there's a few bits that you wouldn't change.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
There's so much of it. We were under so many restrictions from Warner Brothers as to what we could and
yeah.
couldn't
I can
do. The
imagine.
budget was constantly repressed down as small as possible. So it was so difficult, but it was being able to work together as a team and try and keep going back to that element of fandom, within myself, and being able to say, we're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully if that comes across even slightly, then I'm pretty pleased with that.
You've done, like you say, you've done a whole range of jobs. I mean, I was looking through your IMDb and so forth, the range of jobs you've had, and you've had loads within the industry. I'm assuming that's not necessarily by choice. It's the way that the industry is, I guess, these days, that you have to, diversify, especially when you're on a low budget, a whole range of things.
It's mainly because I'm a control freak. There's so many parts. When you're involved in independent film production, you've got so many things that need doing, and ultimately so few people to do it. And it's time more than anything, more than money, that ends up being the problem. Like with Beneath that I'm working on at the minute, there's more roles in that I'm doing than I would otherwise normally do. But it's just, with my experience in the industry and with the time that we've got, sometimes it is just easier to get in there and do it yourself. And sometimes you just have to. You haven't got necessarily the people or the money to do those things. So, it becomes a bit of an all hands on deck thing.
Sure.
And
I mean, I've been lucky enough to speak to quite a few directors doing this sort of thing. And the one thing that comes across, the common characteristic is, and I mean this in the nicest way, a complete control freak. So so I think it doesn't matter how much money that some of these guys have got. It's kind of, I'm in charge, I'm doing it, and I'll do everything if I have to, to make sure it's done.
It's funny, really, because there is so much of that, and I think every director has to have that.
I would guess
ultimately,
so,
you're in charge. You've been given charge of the ship full of these people that you've got to get them all there. And ultimately, it can't be a dictatorship. Every director needs to be able to take opinions and ideas and everything from everywhere else and absorb that. But ultimately, it's still the director that has to choose which way to go and absolutely stick to that. So having a vision, from the outset, something that you absolutely believe in and you can see where it's going, is so important, because, ultimately, that's where it all starts. The first time I read that script and decide this is where I'm going, it's in them first few moments. It's the first time you ever read that page that the image is in your head, and that's really kind of what stays all the way through. It'll adapt slightly and vary, but ultimately it's still there or thereabouts what you first saw, because obviously that's what drew you to the project. So that for me is being able to bring that to life, and it's being able to use the teams around me to get there.
What sort of director would you say that you were then? Are you kind of like you've got that vision, but are you kind of hands-on, or do you like to let the actors just go with what with a minimum direction? What sort of director would you couch yourself, or does it change from film to film, actor to actor?
It changes, depending on what the project is, who your cast are. There's so many different things that can change. Sometimes, especially if it's effects-heavy stuff, you need to get the key points at the key times, so it doesn't leave a lot of room. But it entirely depends, because like now what we've got is a situation where we've got one lead actress throughout the entire film. So that gives me a chance to really get in there and have one-on-one direction with an actor, which, is kind of a rare thing nowadays. You've got more and more cast, you get less time with each person. Now, on this occasion, I can really get in there and work with her and, allow her that freedom to try different things. So it does depend on the project, and it's, it's something that I like to be able to give that freedom, because, as I say, ultimately it's not a dictatorship. And if filmmakers could do it on their own, they would. The point is, you need all of these people to bring these ideas to the table, make it all happen, and, as much as every director, like myself, thinks we're absolutely right, never wrong at any moment, you do have to take them moments when, if it's an actor that says, how about we try this? And you immediately want to say, no, absolutely not. And you think, actually, that could probably work. Yes, good idea.
And then claim it as your own afterwards, so...
Of course, yeah.
So, in terms of inspirations then, do you have any particular directors that were kind of like, this is the one that's inspired me more than others? Particular genres or directors?
Yeah, I mean, there's the obvious ones would be Hitchcock and Spielberg are probably my two major ones.
Okay.
But contemporary directors, Danny Boyle. There's so much of Danny Boyle that I really I love so much of Danny's work, and he's a modern director working on similar type films and things like that. And as much as Hitchcock and Spielberg will always be my directing gods. Certainly for the time being, I can't direct similar projects due to Hitchcock and the era and Spielberg and the budgets. But Danny is kind of is within reach, and it makes for me something that I can keep in tandem with.
I would totally agree with that. I mean, I think 28 Days Later is just, it has the look of a small independent film, but given this broad, real, amazing canvas. It's a stunning film. It's probably in my top 10, I would say.
Absolutely. And Sunshine has got to be one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Sorely underrated.
It totally is.
But I absolutely love that film.
Totally. That's Cillian Murphy, isn't it? That plays. It is. It's one of those films that's kind of. I think it's a kind of maybe it's something that people will probably refer to in 15, 20 years' time and look back, go, kind of like the way that we look back at people like Tarkovsky now that did Solaris and, all that stuff, with the same sort of thing. Yeah, totally agree. Oh, you're totally forgiven for standing me up last week. Totally forgiven now. In terms of reviews, because you mentioned you kind of alluded to it in terms of the Superman, Requiem. Do you read reviews at all? Because obviously with social networking these days now, you've got this tidal wave of Twitter review and all this stuff. Do you read them, take notice of them?
I try not to. The problem is nowadays is that you used to have reviews that would come in and you could ignore them.
Yeah.
Now they've got a really delightful habit of like tagging you in the reviews as well. So it becomes even harder to ignore because the first thing they say is there's terrible film directed Gene Fallaize. Like, oh god, so you can't really hide from them anymore. But they're one of those things. I take all reviews, as they come. Yeah. Not all of them are as well. They're rarely actually what you want them to be. But it's just being able to learn from them each time, and reviews get easier, with time. So when you first read them, when a film's just out, they can really hurt sometimes. Yeah. But then actually, as time goes by, there's so much that I learned since Superman. It's those negative things that you learn more from. Yeah. And it's each one of those things that are picked up in reviews that over time I've kind of reviewed in myself. Yeah. And been able to learn from and build on and improve upon. Yeah. So I think they can be useful in the right way.
Yeah. I mean, I can't understand reviewers or bloggers or whoever who will criticise something, which fair enough if they want to criticise. I mean, I don't recount myself as a critic by any means. I write about stuff that I like, and I'll publish stuff I like. I would never even dream of tagging in yourself or anybody if it was a terrible review. Why would you do it? I don't. If it's a good review, then maybe and like to share and stuff. But if it's a bad review, I think that's just rude. I think it's if you don't like something, fair enough. Yeah, I know, right? I know. I mean, but then the bad ones I would have thought would tend to drown out the good ones because there will be good stuff in there, and sometimes they don't. Absolutely. They don't shout as loudly, do they? So
no, that's it, and that's always the case. For especially something as diverse as Superman. Yeah, that was really. It would go one way or the other. People would absolutely love it, or they would absolutely hate it. So there was some really nice ones on there saying like the nicest things I'd ever been told. And there was another one that said, someone needs to kill this man for directing this film. So it's just like, you have to try and balance them. But inevitably, them ones are the ones that you think, oh, God, was it really that?
Did you not think at the time? Because obviously, like you say, it's Superman. It's like, about as iconic as you get. And, I count myself as a bit of a geek, but I try to stand back. Same with the Star Wars thing, that you get a lot of fans who are incredibly possessive and precious and ownership in terms of certain things. Did you not think at the time, this is kind of going to be, there are going to be some people that are just going to hate it no matter what I do,
Yes, and we were even warned that by Warner Brothers.
Really, right.
They'd not long. It wasn't too long after they'd done Superman Returns when they got all the the backlash from sticking with the Donnaverse, and everyone wanted something new, and then inevitably they went with something new, and everyone moaned about that as well. So you really can't please everyone, but you've just got to try, and I think that was the important thing, was sticking with the vision, because it may not have been to everyone's tastes, but it was what it was. I think that's the important thing, because if you try too much to please everyone, it becomes even more disjointed, and people will pick that up. So you've either got to, go one way or the other with it. Either, do it your way or a completely different way. And, whether it be right or wrong, that's the way we went with it. And as I say, I'm pleased, as from my personal experience as a filmmaker, I'm pleased with it. It doesn't mean I'll sit and watch the film with anyone, but
I mean, you've done a superhero thing. You've got quite a broad sort of range of genres. You've done Cain, which is behind you, which I saw just a couple of nights ago. And again, I enjoyed that. You can't go wrong, I don't think, with a group of kids in a mental asylum, and that's it's just it's great. So you got a slasher horror film there. Could I just ask you about Cain? Because I genuinely did enjoy that. Watched that, as I say, about 4 or 5 nights ago. Was there, and again, I don't mean this as a criticism at all, but there seemed to be distinct inspiration for the likes of Tobe Hooper, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that sort of thing. Would that be accurate? Would that be
Absolutely.
fair?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there was several references. We tried to litter it with a few references.
There were one or two I saw.
Yeah, it was a bit. We done it as a bit of a throwback to more of like 70s and 80s horror, where rather than relying purely on jump scares and things like that, it was about building the tension. And it's not the easiest thing to do. When you've got a small budget nowadays, it's different to having a small budget in the 70s. It was quite different then. The whole landscape of filmmaking was different. So you could do what Tobe Hooper did and release Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it'd be something that was absolutely insanely different at the time. Now, because it hasn't got jump scares, the thing that a lot of people complain about, you take the jump scares out and then people say it's a bit slow and things like that. So it can be, again, it's difficult to please. So we wanted to do something where it was just no jump scares, if at all possible, and just try to tell a story and hopefully scare a few people on the way. And as you say, there's lots of references in there, with the kind of leathery face mask and the styling in the mask. We've done a lot of different things. There's the scene in Chester's kind of like where he stays in the asylum is very red, so it's a bit like the scenes in A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right.
We've got all the plumbing and stuff there. So there was quite a few references in there trying to give that throwback to the 70s and making something like that.
I enjoyed that. I think the term you used, slow burner, and Cain is a kind of slow burner, but and that does put some people off. And like you say, because they like the jump scares, the constant adrenaline, and yet people forget. I think talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that was used with a cast of unknowns and amateurs. There weren't many sort of classically trained actors in that, and that was an incredibly slow burner. And it's a film that's completely misunderstood because there's very little blood in Texas Chainsaw. In fact, there's hardly any at all. It's mostly in terms of what you see. And it is there are large periods of it where nothing happens, and people forget that. And then when they complain, when people like yourself make a similar sort of vibe, it's like, well, it's too slow. Well, no, it's not. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. Were you happy with it?
That's what we tried to do anyway. It's, as I said before, you're never going to please everyone, but trying to at least give a bit of a love letter back to those kind of 70s films, just to that they can still be done, and it's just kind of fun to do them sometimes. So
Do you want to be tied down into? Would you mind being tied down in terms of a genre? I mean, you've done a bit of horror, say the Superman. Next thing's a sci-fi. Is that what you want to do, or is there a particular genre that you think, no, this is where I could see myself, staying within?
I often get pigeonholed as a horror-based director, right. Because I've done 2 or 3 horrors over the years, but it's not something that I'm not going to complain if I keep getting offers to work in horror and sci-fis. I'm certainly not going to go, oh God, this is a real tough life I've got here. But for me, a bit like being an actor, you don't really want to get pigeonholed. Being able to do some different types of projects is really cool. And I've got after Beneath, which is a sci-fi, I've then got a true story. It is a horror, but it's a true story one, and then a biopic as well. So there's a range of stuff there, and I think it's just trying to keep that range there. But quite honestly, as long as the offers come in, if the project's right, I'll do it. No matter what the genre. If that's what keeps paying the bills, then I can. That's fine.
Who cares? I'll say who cares. If you're doing what you want to do, then I suppose who cares. So Beneath. So you mentioned that's the kind of what got me on in the way of wanting to talk to you anyway. So you mentioned a certain actress that's been in there, and we've got Lydia Hearst. So she comes with she was in Z Nation. She was in and
she just had the Haunting of Sharon Tate.
Haunting of Sharon Tate, as well. So and also I think, is she co-producing? Am I right in saying
she is? Yeah. She's a producer on this as well. Lydia's been great, actually. I first spoke to Lydia about the project. She was over in London at the time. Met with her the day before she was due to fly back to LA. At that point, we were doing a lot of script adjustments, and at that point, we only had the first 40 pages were polished. And I said to Lydia, look, read the first 40 pages, don't make a decision on it, but see what you got, see what you think, if you'd be interested. And she says, I'll read it on the plane tomorrow, I promise. And if anyone ever says they'll read it on the plane, they never read it on the plane. But I was amazed, actually, when almost the exact moment that Lydia landed, an email pinged through saying, read the first 40 pages on the plane, absolutely loved it.
Nice.
Whatever it takes, I want to be involved. And that was a godsend, really, because other than the extreme pressure of making sure the rest of the script matched those 40 pages.
No pressure, no.
Right. But since then, Lydia's been instrumental in getting so many people involved and keeping the momentum going on it. And we genuinely couldn't have done it without her. So I'm so grateful to have her involved. And it's a real unique experience for both of us, for Lydia and myself, both as a lead actress and a director. As I said earlier, to have that time on set where in the same amount of time you'd normally be directing, 20, 30, 40 different actors, it's mostly just me and Lydia. So we can really kind of get into the details of her character. That's something I'm particularly looking forward to. Even if it is only in a kind of 6 foot by 6 foot set, so it's going to be really tight.
So I was going to ask in terms of the production. In fact, for those that haven't heard about the film, give us a brief synopsis. I've read it, but I mean it's a nice little concept. So just briefly for those, just what the film is in, without giving obviously too much away. What the brief synopsis is.
Yeah, well, Lydia Hearst plays Emily Weaver. She's a really hard-nosed deep-sea diver who's out looking for some plane wreckage that disappeared 5 years earlier. They're there. She's there with the team, and there's a hurricane going on at the time. She hears this sonar ping from the bottom. Now, they've been looking for this plane for a long time, so she's particularly excited. She wants to be the one to find this wreckage. So she takes this one-man submersible out on an unsanctioned dive, much to the dismay of everyone else on the team, and she takes it down. This is really where we first cut into the film, because the important thing is that the camera never directly leaves the submersible. It's just in there with her the whole time. So essentially the audience is the other person in the sub with her. Right. So she takes this dive to the bottom of the ocean, and that's where strange things start happening, because she encounters an Einstein-Rosen bridge, a wormhole essentially, into a different time and place where she's able to find this wreckage. But the problem is with that is that it means that her communication with her home dimension is cut off. So she has to find a way back to the surface and back to safety with all these crazy things going on around her. So it's a really, really interesting thing for us all to get our teeth into, really, because it's grounded in as much science as possible. So there's less sci-fi, more sci-fact in it, whilst at the same time being able to really kind of stretch the boundaries of these things. So it's something that I'm particularly I'm quite excited about. It's something that I would absolutely watch. So I'm looking forward to getting into it.
I was going to say it's something I would watch too. That's why I wanted to contact you in the first place. It just sounds a great concept. And is it going to be filmed over here in the UK, or is it over in the States? Or
yes, almost all of it's going to be over here. We've got a few days filming in the States, but it's all studio work here, and a couple of days in the water tank as well. So that'll be fun.
You're not claustrophobic, are you, or anything? Because I am, so I don't think,
Well, the good thing is about filming it is that it's not really claustrophobic. It's designed to look like it in our shell, but the actual set isn't, thankfully. It's the concept, the idea of this character being in this small place, a couple of miles down in the ocean, not being able to see around her fully. That's what kind of really creeps me out, you know, and it's what made me ultimately think, oh God, that's horrible, which is why I really want to do it.
That's my idea of hell, going down in a one-man submersible. Because I do generally suffer from claustrophobia, and yet I love films that are set, in that sort of thing, or down under caves. Or I could never go in a cave myself, but I love that sort of stuff. Films like Alien, where you've just got these narrow little corridors and totally claustrophobic, but I love it. In terms of Lydia's co-producing it, so I know it's sort of thing that you probably can't talk about too much, but in terms of budget, is it something that you're excited about in terms of what you've got for this? Is it giving you a little bit more freedom?
Yeah, it gives a lot more freedom in comparison, certainly in comparison to things like Superman and Cain and things like that. Every filmmaker always wants more. There's so much you could. The more money you have, the more you can do with it. But it's a good amount to be able to do what we want without going over the top. And it primarily, the budget was what really dictated the kind of story it needed to be. So rather than a great big thing with huge cast and lots of sets and things like that, the budget dictated that it needed to be quite small. And actually that's led to a much better story, because now it means that we've got this small claustrophobic environment that's going to make audiences feel on edge and uncomfortable. And as a filmmaker, there's no greater thing to be able to do to an audience than to actually make them feel and react a certain way. Because there's so many films you can just sit and watch as a viewer. But one that actually makes you feel a little bit kind of creeped out is fantastic. It's such an opportunity. So I've got to thank the budget for that, because it's led us to this.
So you say you're in pre-production at the moment. So did you say about 10 weeks until you start filming? Is that right?
Yeah, about 10 weeks till we're due to start filming. So get it all in the can before the end of the year is what we're all working on at the minute. So let's say crewing up the final key crew roles at the minute. There's a little bit of casting work we need to do there. But we're well on track and looking good.
And how are you going to keep people informed in terms of how it's going? Are you going to have a diary or a vlog or anything, or on social networking? Are you going to kind of keep us up to date in terms of?
I'm pretty active on social media as it is. At this point, things tend to be a bit quiet, because while you're getting everything together, when it comes to filming, I tend to be pretty vocal and stuff there anyway, as are so many now. But also at the same time, for the eventual Blu-ray release and things, I'll be keeping a daily director's diary as well. Just kind of at the beginning and at the end of each day, just kind of going through. I won't be able to incorporate all of it, but I think it's something that I'm interested to see. As a director myself, it's cool to see those kind of things.
I love them all. I'm one of those sad people that will just take every DVD extra. My wife hates it. My wife's in the other room now, and she'll say, "Why are you watching this commentary by the one of the producers? You just listen to the director's commentary. It's great. I love it. You just do it again and again and again and again."
Yeah, that's it.
So, what sort of release are you into? Do you know what release it's going to be? You mentioned Blu-ray. Is it going to be theatrical or video on demand, or what do you anticipate?
It will definitely end up on physical media, so on DVD, Blu-ray, and streaming. Exactly which streaming services we're not entirely sure yet, because you don't get the confirmation for those until afterwards and a little bit further down the line. But it'll be available on one of the major streaming platforms at least, and physical media as well.
And you do realise I will be pestering you to talk with Lydia as well at some point, if that would be.
Of course, that's fine. Yeah, Lydia will do that. She'll be fine with that.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, because I think it's she's a name. It's a great concept. I don't think unless those 40 pages were the best and the rest of it's not as good. I think you're on a sure thing, to be perfectly honest. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be great.
We're pleased actually, because we got our script coverage back. When we first finished that, and all of it was better than we'd even hoped for. So we were so relieved just that we managed to match those first 40 pages.
Yeah.
That was the biggest relief. And Lydia read it all and still said, yes, we've done it.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how the filming goes, and I can't wait to see the finished product, and hopefully I'll get maybe, I don't know, a sneak preview, but certainly get an early view of it, and, I'm really looking forward to it, and hopefully, as I say, get to speak to Lydia as well. So best of luck with all that. I'm sure it's going to be great, and I'm sure it will go smoothly and so forth. I've got just a couple of very quick questions to finish off, because I know you're busy and it's been a long day and everything. I don't know if I've been wound up with this, because I've got to ask you a couple of questions. I think whether or not this is true or not.
Right.
Are you an actual reverend? Is that true?
I am.
You're not.
There's a story behind that. I was in Vegas a few years ago, and it was the first time I went to Vegas, and it was one of those things. You've got to do something silly in Vegas. You've got to either get married or be in a position to marry someone else.
Yeah.
And so I went for the chicken option, and I got ordained as a reverend instead. So it was the easiest
so you
thing to do.
You can marry people then? Is that in?
I can marry people as long as it's in the state of California. I can marry people.
All right. That is so weird. I thought somebody was winding me up. So no, you can do this. And also as well, apparently you've got an obsession with whisper bars. Is that correct? Is that another thing or?
Yeah, I've always loved whispers, and then when they got rid of them, what was it, 2005 or something, I was distraught, and so I was so pleased when they brought them back, and so they're just so much better than arrows. Come on,
A whisper eating reverend who makes films. So you've got a niche there.
To that on my tombstone.
I know, right? That should be on your resume. It's free. You have it. It's fine. So very quickly, so your time's taken up with that. You said you've got a couple of other things as well in the pipeline. So is it kind of just busy at the moment then, and not really much time to think? Is it kind of non-stop at the moment?
Yeah, it's really busy. It's those pivotal few weeks when finance is coming in, and all of a sudden, after forever, it seems like forever. Actually, it's only been a few months since we first got on this, but it feels like forever of waiting for everyone else. And then all of a sudden, money's in, and everyone says, "Okay, we're waiting for you now." And so then it's like everyone's scrambling then to get on things. So it's busy now, pretty much until we wrap, until about 2 or 3 days before Christmas.
Okay.
It's not non-stop really until then, but as I said, I'm absolutely not in a position to complain about that. I love my job and everything that comes with it, and it's so cool to be able to do this job.
Yeah.
So if it means that I'm busy from now until next Christmas, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So to get a few days off this Christmas, that's a bonus.
Well, hopefully I can talk to you again, maybe during the making of the film or something, or nearer the time.
Absolutely.
After the time, that'd be really cool. And I'll say, hopefully talk to Lydia as well. That'd be great. So listen, Gene, thanks for your time. Thanks for fitting me in. It was much appreciated. I love that backdrop. I just everything that you've got there. I have genuinely been. I have been listening to what you said. I promise, but you keep. Oh, well, I like that, and I like that. That's so cool.
It goes all the way around. Actually.
Yeah,
there's all sorts of stuff in here.
The room I'm in at the moment is kind of being decorated, so it's kind of. But my kind of geek room upstairs, my man cave, whatever you want to call it. Very much is what you've got there. It's similar sort of thing. So cool. Two men after the same thing. Listen, mate. All the best. Thanks for your time, and I'll speak to you soon. Okay, mate.
Yep.
All right.
Will do.
Cheers,
Thanks so much.
All right,
See you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.